Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin' and the final race recap of the 2025 NASCAR season. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. Today's video, as you might expect, is going to be a little longer one as we're covering a variety of topics, including several key items discussed during the State of the Sport address on Friday. We'll discuss the Truck and Xfinity Series races, and of course, we'll talk about yesterday's Cup Series season finale that ended in the thrill of victory for Kyle Larson and his number 5 team and the agony of defeat for Denny Hamlin and his number 11 crew. But before we discuss yesterday's championship race, let's go back to Friday in the desert and our annual meeting with the Steves, also known as the State of the Sport address with Commissioner Steve Phelps and President Steve O'Donnell. The pair touched on numerous topics while visiting with reporters, including Phelps reading a prepared statement addressing the 2311 Front Row Motorsports lawsuit. I wanted to talk to you guys about several topics covered in the session, including the drop in TV ratings in 2025.
When you compare TV ratings for a race being on either broadcast or cable, there is a noticeable difference in that number. What level of concern is there about this, since this is year one of a 7-year deal?
Yeah, it's a good question, Jordan, and I should have addressed that in my upfront, which I intended to do. When the season started, because of the distribution changes to be less broadcast heavy and more cable heavy and streaming, we knew we were going to have a reset. And we had projected that reset and told everyone in our industry that reset would be between 14 and 15% in Cup. We also told them we'd probably have double-digit increase in Xfinity. And then trucks would be, where trucks are, because the distribution stayed the same primarily on FS1 and some Fox. So right now, as we sit, our ratings in Cup are down 14%, exactly what we predicted. So, I think the Fox portion of the season was really strong in terms of how they did from a ratings perspective. I think that Xfinity exceeded a lot of, kind of experts' opinions about what their audience would be. We surmised that the audience makeup of Amazon would be younger than it was by about 6 years. And then the production value that, Fox and NBC have had traditionally amazing. And then, everyone just raised their game. Amazon's production was tremendous, and Turner Sports was tremendous. NBC already had a high bar, right? The Turner numbers were slightly softer than we thought they would be, slightly, but in line with the projections. I would say the cable portion of the NBC package has been a little softer than we had expected. Bounce back on the NBC races, and I think we'll have a decent rating here on Sunday. So again, the expectation moving forward, now that we have had the reset, is that we are going to grow. And we're going to grow because we have the best racing in the world. Our stars are going to be more out there. We're creating better content, all the things that make fandom. So again, are we concerned about where the ratings are? No, it's exactly where we thought they'd be.
So they're where they thought they'd be as far as the decline in numbers is concerned. And if I'm being honest, I thought it was going to decline too. Not because of going to streaming or Turner, but because there were the fewest races carried on network television in years. That's just common sense. If you're not showing it where people have the most access like they have had for years before, the numbers are naturally going to decline. I guess the question I have is, will Fox and NBC feature more races on the big networks next year? If so, those figures will likely change. Moving on to the next topic they discussed, and it was NASCAR officiating. Take a listen.
There was a change in race control earlier this year on the Cup side with Jusan leaving. Anything you can share about what happened there, or what are the plans, at least going forward, for race control of who will be up there? And again, just plans.
Yeah, nothing I can share other than, it was an internal personnel matter, and wish Jusan well, did a great job for us. Tim Berman is calling the races. And I think I'd probably be remiss, and I'll knock on wood here, but I answered 2 years in a row. I was up here answering officiating questions about missed calls, bad calls. I don't think Elton Sawyer's been behind the hauler once this year, and so I want to give a bit of a tribute to the team. Of course, anything can happen right this weekend, but I think those guys deserve some acknowledgement for really doing a hell of a job throughout the year, and I think our competitors would share that as well.
So O'Donnell used the departure of race director Jason Hamilton to tout how good the officiating has been and how Elton Sawyer didn't have to ever address media behind the hauler this year because of a questionable call by the sanctioning body. That's a weird flex, in my opinion. I guess O'Donnell forgot about the duels caution a few hundred feet from the finish line, which awarded the win to Austin Cindric instead of Eric Jones, who crossed the finish line first. Or a week later at Atlanta, when a caution was thrown for a crash on the final lap, awarding the win to Christopher Bell, while he was in a three-wide battle for the win with Kyle Larson and Carson Hocevar. Or this summer in Chicago and that violent Cody Ware crash into the tires and the very delayed caution there. Let's just say there's still considerable room for improvement with officiating. And the final thing I wanted to talk about from the State of the Sport address was a question from Jeff Gluck about the sport's parity and addressing it in the future.
When the NextGen debuted, a big selling point was, and a lot of talk was about the parity. This year, though, 3 teams combined to have all 8 drivers in the final, and then they won 25 of the 29 oval races. So is that a concern for you guys? And if it is a concern, are there changes that can be made to address, these big teams now honing in on this car?
I think it's a good question, Jeff, and I wouldn't say it's a concern. It's definitely a trend that we need to be very watchful on. And I think it is when you look at the car, our team has done a really great job around the car and what you can do, but most of the spend now is going through simulation, right, and engineering and all these things that the bigger teams have more resources. You look at the future with AI and all these different things. So our focus as a competition group, I think, really needs to lean into that aspect of it. So, what do the have-nots not have, and what can we do and what rules can we put in place as technology becomes more and more of a factor? Can we lessen that? Probably difficult to do. That technology costs a ton of money. But what can we share with some of the smaller teams as we look at future rules to make sure they're able to go out there and not only compete, but compete for wins? So it is definitely on the radar. That's why we introduced the car, certainly from a cost standpoint. It's not a bad thing to have drivers going out and winning multiple races, right? We've learned that the hard way too, but it is something we're focused on for sure.
It'll be interesting to see what possible rule changes might be coming, and if they do in fact have an impact on improving the chances of the smaller teams winning in the sport. Moving on from the state of the sport to media availabilities. There was really just one thing that I wanted to share, and it was the Championship 4 drivers talking with reporters and an interesting exchange that was had. Take a listen.
The fan sentiment has been overwhelmingly positive towards Denny to get that monkey off his back and win the championship. I mean, Jeff did a poll earlier in the week, and Denny got 50% of the vote that people want to see him win. Does that surprise you 3 at all?
I mean, I don't really look at the app, Twitter, so I don't know.
But does it just surprise you, just the fan sentiment?
That's how you know it's called X now.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised, I guess. I think because, everybody likes a, story like that, where somebody nearing the end of their career, all that, is great. So, I can see why people would cheer for him. I mean, I'm a competitor. I obviously want to win, but it would be really cool, to see somebody who's put in so much time to this sport and been so close so many times and 60 wins. I agree, so I'm going to want to kick his ass tomorrow, but it's not going to kill me if he wins unless he runs me in the fence again.
First off, it was hilarious that Hamlin pointed out to Byron that it was now called X. But then to hear Kyle Larson talk about Hamlin the way he did, you can tell he really appreciates what he's accomplished in the sport and how, like so many people heading into the race, would be happy to see Hamlin finally pull it off. Obviously, we'll talk more about this in a bit. But now it's time to move on to practice on Friday, and one word comes to mind: tires. We hadn't been running 5 minutes when Chase Briscoe had a left rear tire issue. So did AJ Allmendinger, and Christopher Bell, and Daniel Suarez. We didn't know it then, but later learned These issues were all self-inflicted, and the teams were testing the softer tire and pushing it to its limits, something that would continue on Sunday in the race. Which takes us to Friday night and the Truck Series race. I won't go into the details of the race, but Corey Heim survived 2 overtime restarts and won his record-setting 12th race of the year and completed what will go down as the greatest single year in Truck Series history. A year that included a ton of records such as most wins, most top fives, most laps led, first driver to lead in every race, most stage wins ever, no DNFs, and regular season champion. Basically, his victory on Friday night was the cherry on top to an absolutely incredible season. Which takes us to Saturday night and the final ever championship in the Xfinity Series. Like Heim, everyone was expecting something similar for Connor Zilisch, who has undeniably been the dominant car in 2025. But I have to admit, going into the race, I was getting 2022 vibes when Junior Motorsports had 3 cars make it into the championship 4, with Ty Gibbs the only non-JRM car in the final. As we all know, Gibbs made the most out of his 25% chance to win and claim the title that season. Playing the role of Ty Gibbs in 2025 was Jesse Love, who won a single race all year at the season opener at Daytona. He was the only non-JRM car battling for the title, and with 25 laps to go on Saturday night, the RCR driver made the race-winning pass of his best friend Zilisch and never looked back. He cruised to victory and claimed his first title. And as happy as fans were the night before when Heim was crowned the best Truck Series driver after a season when he was clearly the best, they were equally displeased when Zilisch came up short and was not rewarded for his season-long efforts. Naturally, the playoff format was the target of the criticism. And later that night, former NASCAR driver Landon Huffman shared his thoughts on X, saying, "I never forget that this is the same format that crowned a NASCAR Cup Series champion who missed 11 of the 36 races in the season." As crazy as tonight's outcome is, that 2015 season tops it for me in the quote, "What are we doing?" department, end quote. Obviously, Huffman was referring to Kyle Busch's season, and the 2-time champion responded, appropriately enough, with 2 middle fingers. That was on Saturday night. On Sunday, while checking out social media, I saw this conversation with Denny Hamlin and his father. Take a look.
How you feel about your car?
I think it's going to handle good.
Well, good. This is the first time I'm going to tell you played dirty. Knock him out the damn way if you got to knock him out of the way. What's the mouth?
I'll do whatever I got to.
Really a sweet father-son moment, especially knowing the circumstances. Okay, now switching gears, one of the other big pre-race storylines was who was in attendance. Movie star Sydney Sweeney, who showed up this year at Charlotte with Ryan Blaney for a ride-around, was in Phoenix promoting her upcoming movie about boxer Christy Martin. I love how Noah Gregson wasn't shy about going up and asking her to take a photo. Sweeney was later involved during the driver intros. The last thing I noted before the start of the race was there wasn't a flyover due to the government shutdown. That was a bummer. And that takes us to the start of the final race of the season, and the playoff drivers were lined up as follows. Denny Hamlin sat on the pole, William Byron lined up second, Kyle Larson started third, and Chase Briscoe was a little deeper in the field, starting 12th. Denny Hamlin jumped out in front at the drop of the green flag, and 30 laps in, or halfway through that first stage, the JGR driver held almost a second lead over Byron. Over the course of the next dozen or so laps, Byron started using a different line and began to close the gap on Hamlin. Then, with 7 laps to go in the stage, the number 24 car made the pass and took the lead. When the stage came to a conclusion, Byron won the stage, and he was followed by Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Austin Cindric, and Kyle Larson. Briscoe finished 10th. During that initial stage break, Denny Hamlin made his first mention of a long clutch pedal. On the Stage 2 restart, we only made it a few laps before our first caution for cause, when John Hunter Nemechek went for a spin. During that caution, Hamlin and his crew chief Chris Gale talked more about the clutch situation.
Yeah, it's long. I pump it up. I do get a little pedal back. Nothing like stock, but I do have enough to disengage right now.
Yeah, that's the only advice I can give you is to pump it up as long as it's coming back and you're getting enough clutch stroke to where it's still operable. You know, if the pedal drops for some reason, let me know and stays. Then you need to pull it back.
After the restart and 25 laps into the next run, the number 11 driver had surged out to almost a 3-second lead over Byron. Interestingly, on lap 104, or a third of the way through the race, all 4 Champ 4 drivers were inside the top 5, with Briscoe in 5th. Ryan Blaney was the only non-Champ 4 competitor running in 4th. And then on lap 107, Shane Van Gisbergen went for a spin and brought out a caution at almost the exact same time that this happened.
Tire down, tire down. Copy, caution, caution, caution. Got a wrecking up here in front of us. Get well up here, get turned.
When I saw this, the first thing I thought of was how Briscoe also experienced tire issues in practice on Friday. The other thing I thought was how lucky he was with the timing to have a caution come out just before he had his issue. Despite the fortunate timing, it was still a setback for the number 19 team, and I really thought they were done for the day. But Briscoe wasn't the only one having issues. He had company. Also during Stage 2, Kyle Busch had tire issues. AJ Allmendinger did as well and slammed into the wall, similar to his practice crash on Friday. However, on the next run following the Allmendinger caution, Chase Briscoe showed he wasn't done and began making his way forward. When a caution came out with 3 laps to go in the second stage, Briscoe had moved all the way up to 7th. Hamlin won this stage and was followed by Blaney, Byron, Larson, and Christopher Bell. Now, before we jump to action in the third and final stage of the 2025 season, we had action on pit road. Actually, before pit road, when Denny Hamlin came over the radio and said that he thought he had a left rear flat. The number 11 team radio said that Ryan Blaney confirmed it was in fact going down. So like Briscoe, Hamlin got fortunate with the timing of his flat. Unfortunately, that wasn't the worst of the number 11's problems. Once on pit road, his jackman had trouble with the jack, which resulted in a delayed stop. But Hamlin wasn't the only one with issues. Kyle Larson's pit crew had trouble with the lug. When it was all said and done, to begin Stage 3, Hamlin dropped 10 spots and came out 11th, while Larson dropped 14 spots and came out 18th. Byron started second, and in a wild turn of events, Briscoe was 5th. Willie B took the lead on the restart, and 15 laps in and lap 200 of the race, the number 24 led, Briscoe was 3rd, Hamlin was 7th, and Larson was 8th. In other words, all 4 drivers were still in it going into the final 100 laps. And then just 2 laps later, this happened to Kyle Larson.
Copy. I got a tire down. We're ready for you. Going inside, 77. Got one, got the right front. Stay up there, all coming underneath of you here. Still multiple, start working down, you're getting clear all the way down. Clear down if you can.
But as you've noticed a theme developing here, Larson wasn't alone. While the number 5 was on pit road changing his tires, Chase Briscoe was victimized yet again by tire issues and had to make another stop on pit road. You'd think at that point, both drivers were out of it, right? Wrong. With 40 laps to go in the race, Hamlin led, Byron was in second, but look at who was in 6th. Yes, Chase Briscoe. Then, with 34 laps to go, J.J. Yaley brought out a caution. And this is where things were about to get interesting on pit road. Who was going to stay out? Who was going to take 2 tires? Who was going to take 4? Both Briscoe and Larson, with the most to gain, took 2, while Byron and Hamlin both took 4. Just a couple laps into the restart, and all 4 champ competitors were battling up front, when Byron and Hamlin pulled down low on the dogleg and got out in front, with the number 11 eventually moving to the point. With 15 laps to go, Hamlin held a 2-second lead over Byron. Unless there was a caution, it appeared Hamlin, who had the dominant car all day, would finally break through and claim his first title. And then with 4 laps to go, William Byron, who was the only Champ 4 car who hadn't had tire issues during the day, had a right front go down, hit the wall, and brought out a yellow. With Byron out of it, it was down to Hamlin, Larson, and Briscoe. And it came down to one final stop to determine a champion. Cliff Daniels once again went with 2 tires, while both Hamlin and Briscoe went with 4. Several minutes later, lining up for the overtime restart, Larson lined up 5th while Hamlin lined up 10th. On the start, Hamlin dove down low onto the dogleg and actually almost pulled even to Larson, but the number 5 surged up on the outside. Over the next 2 laps, Larson stayed out front while Hamlin battled traffic. When the checkered flag fell, Ryan Blaney edged out Brad Keselowski for the win, while Kyle Larson finished 3rd and Hamlin finished 6th, making Larson a 2-time champion. After the race, there were several comments I wanted to highlight. Naturally, Hamlin was incredibly dejected being denied a championship yet again. But I wanted you to hear what the HMS crew had to say about it all, starting with William Byron.
I don't know all the details, but yeah, I'm just super bummed that it, was a caution, obviously, and I hate that. But I hate for Denny. I hate it for the 11 team. I'm happy for Kyle. Happy for Mr. Hendrick. They deserve it. And yeah, it stinks, right?
So that was Byron, and he obviously felt horrible about causing that caution. Now I want you to listen to Larson.
I would be lying to you if I told you I wasn't, a little bit sad for Denny too. I mean, as a competitor, and to see him, put in so much work throughout his career, and to put in a perfect performance there, and to just have it not work out there at the end, it's hard to not feel for him.
And finally, take a listen to Mr. H himself.
I mean, I can't believe it. I feel for Denny because he had a heck of a car and drove a heck of a race. But that's the way these deals go.
Like Larson, Hendrick also felt bad for Hamlin, but then he summed it up best, saying that is just racing. Now, there were obviously some questioning the number 11 team taking 4 tires instead of 2. Take a listen to what Chris Gale had to say about it.
Chris, what did you say to console your driver?
He's a champion to me. That's just a situation of a restart. Like, I think that, if we'd have cleared the one car, the 22, whoever it was there, we were in position where we'd have cleared the 5 and been gone. And you get a 2-lap restart at the end, shootout like that, and the 5, congrats. 5 great guys. Their only opportunity was to do rights in that scenario, right? And it just mattered how many people were going to stack up and be between us, and you don't necessarily know that. But even then, we were going to be in position, and it just restarts. This is why. Either way, he's a champion. That's all I told him. He prepared like a champion this week, coming here this week. He put in the work. He dominated the race. He sat on the pole. He did everything he needed to be a champion today. It didn't work out for him in the last restart, but that's the truth.
As he said, it just didn't work out in the end. And finally, I want to wrap up with the post-race comments from Kyle Larson. However, before I do, I want to replay his comments from last week on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, when he was asked why he would be the one to win the championship.
One final question. Why do you walk away a 2-time champion this Sunday?
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. Every team is so good, but I don't know. I think it starts with I really believe in Cliff Daniels, and I think his leadership is what's going to take us, further than the others. So, yeah, I really think that's our biggest asset, and hopefully we can use it to our advantage.
So that's what Larson had to say last week. Now take a listen to what he had to say after winning the championship.
Could you have imagined being here with 98 to go when your tire went down?
Not even with like 30 to go. But especially, not when the tire went down. So just such a 5-team, sort of championship, and never quitting, never, doubting that we had a shot, even at times when you wanted to doubt it. So, just so proud of Cliff Daniels. He's just the ultimate leader, and for him to gamble with 2 tires twice in a row and to have it win us the championship is unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode and the 2025 NASCAR season. It's hard to believe it's over. I just have 2 questions for you today. What did you think of the races this weekend, and what did you think of the 2025 season? Before we wrap up, I just wanted to remind you all of our journey together this year. It all started back in February at Daytona. I'm sure some of you remember my video from a friend's house in Florida as I completely missed the 500 due to being sick in bed with the flu. And that was how this season started. We've had plenty of ups and downs along the way, including, of all things, a stroke back in August. But I'm so grateful because you guys have stuck with me through it all. And by all, I mean 101 videos. I actually went and counted yesterday. This is my 101st video since February 3rd. As for the future, my plan this off-season is to initially take some time off and recharge. Not sure just how long just yet. That said, I'll still plan on putting out videos in the off-season, just not as frequent with a lot less to cover. And finally, with the holidays just around the corner, I wanted to remind you guys that you can still buy that perfect gift for your favorite NASCAR fan or yourself, and that's this awesome 2026 Cup Series calendar. If you look at it now, it shows you that the 2026 Daytona 500 is just over 100 days away. As always, thanks again for checking out the latest episode. I really do appreciate it, and I really appreciate you guys and all the support you've shown this season. It means more to me than I can express. Thank you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.